Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Dynamics 365 Tech Talk in the Store Commerce Migration Series. Today's topic is Dynamics 365 Commerce, Planning and Execution Rapid Start. My name is Cora, and I'll be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this session through Teams live events, and the audio can be heard through your device speakers. This session is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. When you join this event, your name, email address, and/or phone number may be viewable to other session participants in the attendee list. By joining, you're agreeing to this experience. The recording will be available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within the coming weeks. If you have questions for the presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right side of your screen. Our presenters will be responding to your questions throughout the session and in a live Q&A segment at the end of the presentation. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Rob Bertram, Principal R&D Solutions Architect, and Srinath Sundrasan, Senior R&D Solution Architect. Rob, over to you.
Welcome, everyone. This is the second talk in a three-part series on migrating to the Store Commerce app. I am Rob, and I'm joined by my colleague, Srinath. Whether you are watching us live or on a recording, we thank you for including us in your migration journey. As I mentioned, this is a three-part series with part number 3 broadcasting on Wednesday, January 4th. If you find this recording valuable, I encourage you to register for the final part. As a reminder, we build on top of our existing work and aim to deliver new content in Tech Talks. There's a lot of collective wisdom in past talks, as well as a Dynamics 365 implementation guide. If you have not done so, I encourage you to read the guide, as there are many repeatable patterns that we reference in this series. In order to transition to Store Commerce, you must migrate your extensions from the legacy Retail SDK framework to Commerce SDK. While there will be some project references that need to be updated, your custom code might need some light refactoring as well. We know that change is sometimes intimidating, so we want to prepare you with information and concrete examples on how to take the first step down your migration journey. The rest of this talk will be a series of demos. We know that there is a lot of information to process. Combined with all of the changes surrounding Commerce SDK and the Store Commerce app, you might feel overwhelmed and not know where to start. We hope to make you feel comfortable by showing you how you can take these next steps. You might benefit most from this Tech Talk once it is a recording, so that you can follow along in your own environment and pause the recording as needed. If I take a moment to reflect on the volume of information that we are sharing, it can be very intimidating. We have an entire Tech Talk series on commerce extensibility, architecture, best practices, testing, application lifecycle management, and a host of others. I also realize that this is yet another series. We also have a monthly webinar, release notes, wave planning, and deprecation announcements. So you're probably wondering, how do I keep up? I don't have a solution for everything, but I would like to share an assessment that we built, which will help you measure your readiness to transition from the legacy modern point of sale to the Store Commerce app. With that, I'm going to do a live demo and share the Microsoft assessment website. This is something that has been around for just over a year. And if you haven't used it before, there are some very good assessments on there that help you with other Microsoft migration journeys. There are many Azure-based assessments that are in here. This is the first one, I believe, for Dynamics 365, and this one is focused specifically on the Store Commerce migration. So the Store Commerce migration assessment is about halfway down the list here on my screen. And this site allows you, when you take these assessments, to take them multiple times, and it will track your results every time. So as you go down this journey and you come back to get reassessed, you can measure your progress. In this case, I'm not logged in, so I'm not going to log in to save my progress. This assessment so far is a series of questions that ask you very targeted aspects about your preparedness. And it's very important to be honest about where you are. If you answer the question on where you would like to be, the guidance is going to reflect that. So the more honest you are about really where you are, the better the guidance that you're going to get from this assessment. So I'm going to go through and answer this in somewhat of a random way. I am going to pick choices that I know are relatively poor, relatively medium, and relatively good, so that when we see the assessment at the end, you get to see the various levels of measurement that we provide. And again, each one of these journeys is specific to you. So don't feel like there's a right or wrong answer. Some of these just mean that there's just more to learn, and we're going to point you in the right direction. Some questions, I will point out, will add additional questions to the, depending on the answer, we'll add additional questions to the assessment. So in this case, if you have localizations, I will change my answer. You will see that we have 19 questions. And when I say that there are localizations, that number goes up to 20. This is because we might have follow-up questions to better understand exactly what localizations or what answer you supplied. So in this case, I'm going to say we do have localizations. And the next question is, where are you localized? So I'm going to randomly pick a couple of these. Of course, your journey is going to be different. And as I wrap this up, instead of, I will point out when we get to the last question, the button will change from next to view guidance. So when I complete the last question, we switch to the guidance view. And as we go through, you have an overall score of where you rank based off of our understanding of your answers. And it's broken down, it's an average of across the different categories that you've submitted. Based off of these answers, we give you some very specific guidance on where we feel you can best improve. So for example, when you chose migration strategy and you said you did not have executive sponsorship and you did not secure funding, we have some tech talks that will help you better plan and get that sponsorship that is critical to the success of an implementation. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Srinath. There are a lot of different answers based off of the choices that you put in here. This is a personal thing. We're not necessarily collecting this data for our use. This is for you to better understand what is your growth path and how do you plan, how do you better prepare for your store commerce migration. And so with that, I'm going to switch back to the presentation. And Srinath, over to you to talk about store commerce app code management.
Thanks, Rob. Hello, everyone. Let me share the screen. In the store commerce migration project, one of the most important areas that requires careful planning is the code management. We will take you through a demo where we will show you how you can work with multiple extension solutions in the store commerce app. We will generate installer for the extension solutions. We'll also go through base installer installation and configuration. Also, we will look at the source control folder, structure, dev, and debug experience. So in this demo, we will see the store commerce app in action. First, we will look at how you can get the store commerce installer. You need to go to the LCS project asset library, and under the retail self-service packages, you are able to download the store commerce installer. So you can import the installer from the shared asset library if you are looking for a version which is not already in your asset library. Okay, so I am going to select the 10.31 preview store commerce installer. I am going to pick that. So this adds the store commerce installer into the current asset library. Then now you can download the store commerce installer. So the store commerce installer download is complete. Now I am going to place that in my repository. So this is the repository where I have all the code artifacts. So the way I have organized this repository is I have placed all the extension samples that I have downloaded from GitHub under the source folder. In the repository, we have a couple of other folders. So there is an installer folder where I keep the core installer as well as the ext installer installers. Then we have the pipeline folder where you can see the YAML for the build pipelines, and also we can see the any PowerShell scripts that are used in the pipeline. And other than that, we have the scripts folder. In the scripts folder, there are some utility scripts which has been put there to help with the build, installation, and other activities that are to be done as part of the Store Commerce app. So there are a couple of other files to be aware of. So there we have the NuGet file, NuGet.config file. In the NuGet.config file, we can see the different package sources. So here you can see the package source for the public feed. Now, after looking at the NuGet.config, there is one more file, which is the report.properties file, where you can describe the build number, the major version, who is the publisher of the package, and other variables which are used throughout the other projects within the repository. So with that said, let's open this folder in Visual Studio Code. I'm going to give this path which I copied. So this is the entire repository when opened in Visual Studio Code. So before going into the samples which are used in the repo, I will also first take you to the place where I have picked the sample. So this is the sample repo we have in GitHub. Under that, we have the Dynamics 365 in commerce, Dynamics 365 in store samples, and under the source folder, we have the packaging samples, which is also, and inside that there is a Store Commerce app. So I have picked up this one, and I have also picked the samples under the gas station sample and barcode MSR dialog samples from here, and I have placed all of those under the source folder in Visual Studio Code. So there are some differences in these samples. Like for example, the gas station sample has the Store Commerce installer. The packaging sample has also the Store Commerce installer. And the barcode sample does not have the Store Commerce installer, so this does not generate the exe file. So I have kept this to demonstrate that that exe files are not generated if you don't have the storecommerce.installer folder and the storecommerce.installer CS proj within that. So this is how the folder structure is and how it's organized. And the way this organization also helps us to develop individual solutions. Like for example, with this new sealed installer and packaging, we can have multiple sealed installers, and each installer can be an extension feature or a functionality that can be independently developed, and it can also be independently sealed and packaged and installed into your devices or registers. So the samples has multiple folders, or each solution has multiple folders. So there's the commerce runtime folder, it has the POS folder, it has the store commerce installation folder, store commerce installer folder, and there are other folders as well: hardware station, channel database, etc. So these are the three samples I have placed in the folder. Now let's take a look at some of the other files which are there in the repository. So let's take a look at the VS Code folder. In the VS Code folder, we have two files: launch.json and the task.json file. So the task.json file has a set of pre-configured tasks which you can run from Visual Studio Code. For example, I have this task for install Store Commerce app. So what this does is it runs the script under install.ps1 file. So if you go to the install.ps1, it has the core installation script. In the core installation script, we first give the path for the core installer, which is under the installer folder under core, and then the storecommerce.installer.exe. And after that, we give the install command telling the exe file that the step we are looking for is to install the storecommerce base installer. And to this install command, we pass few command line switches. So the first switch we pass is the enable web view dev tools. So the enable web view dev tools is required to debug the storecommerce app. We also pass the trust SQL server certificate command line switch. It is used to trust the self-signed certificate that we use for the offline DB. Then we have the retail server URL. I am passing the local IAS hosted retail server URL as part of the installation. And we can run this script in the command prompt, or also it can be run from Visual Studio Code terminal. So I will show you both the methods. So let me go and first run it from the command prompt. So let me go to the folder where the installer is placed. First, I have to pick the installer from the one which I downloaded, and I'm going to place it in my installer folder under core. Now I will go to the folder and I will open a new command prompt window or PowerShell window, and I will show you how we can run the script. So let me copy the script from the install.ps1 folder, and let me copy this, and let's say // and the full script. So this installs the storecommerce app in the machine. So it takes a few seconds or minutes to finish the installation. So now the installation is complete. So you saw that we have run the storecommerce .installer exe file. You can also configure this exe file to be run from Visual Studio Code directly. So what we can do is we can use this configure task, which is pointing to the install.ps1 script, and we can just run the task from Visual Studio Code. So okay, so I actually need to be inside the install folder. So let's go there. Install folder, and then we can run the task. So we can run the install storecommerce app task. So the installation is complete. So similarly, you can create other tasks in the task.json file. For example, I have created another task for build and install storecommerce app extensions. Another one for just the build storecommerce app extensions, uninstall storecommerce app extensions. So these are the different tasks. You can add your own tasks in here. If you are working with any additional extension functionality where you need to create a task, you can add those changes in the task.json file. So these tasks are associated with scripts in the scripts folder. For example, the install.ps1 file has the script for the installation. The build extension .ps1 file has the script for building the extensions in the repo, like for example, the packaging sample, the gas station sample, the barcode MSR dialog sample. And here we are just passing the install storecommerce extension out to build as false. In the build and extension package, we pass that value as true, so that we install that extensions and as well as build the extension. And we have the script for the uninstall. So it is possible to uninstall the storecommerce app, base storecommerce app, by passing the uninstall command to the storecommerce.installer.exe. And also it's possible to uninstall the extensions by passing the uninstall command. So let's just go and uninstall any extensions right now. So just say uninstall storecommerce app extensions. So there are no extensions at the moment. So that's why you are getting this message saying that it's not installed. So now we can also go and uninstall the Store Commerce app we installed. So we can come here and install Store Commerce app. So this will uninstall the Store Commerce app we installed earlier. Yeah, so this process is also complete. Let's now take a look at the extensions. So there are 3 extension solutions we have placed in the repository. One is the barcode MSR dialog sample, another one is gas station sample, and the next one is the packaging samples. So in each solution, you will have the installer folder, and also it will have the CS project for the installer. So the CS project actually emits the installer or the exe file. So we see that in the gas station sample, I have placed the CS project file. And similarly, I have also placed the CS proj file for the packaging samples. We do not have a installer in the barcode MSR dialog sample, so it will not generate any exe files for the barcode MSR dialog samples. So in the project, what I have done is I have added a copy task here. So what this copy task does is once the execution or once the build is complete, it is copying the exe or the installer generated into the ext folder under the installer folder. So you can see the destination folder path. So it is copying the exe file, that is the target directory.project name.exe file. It is copying that to the ext folder under the installer folder. So and this is the additional thing that we have added in the CS proj, just to make sure that the exe installers are easily found, and you don't need to go deep into the folder structure to get to the exe installer. With that said, so now let's go ahead and build the extensions. You can build the extensions from command line, or you can also build the extensions from the tasks which I showed earlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say build store commerce app extensions. So the build of the extensions is complete. Now we can go to the folder to see if the exe files have been generated. So you can go to the source folder. In this, we do not expect a in the barcode MSR dialog sample, we do not expect a exe file because this does not have a CS project for the installer. So if you go into the gas station sample, we can go to the installer into the bin folder, debug. Then we can see there is this exe for the gas station sample. And then we can go to the other solution, which is the packaging samples. We can go to the bin folder of the store commerce installer project, and we can go here and we can see the installer.exe file. So all the installers have been generated. We have the base installer, and we have also the extension installers. Let's now install the Store Commerce app and also install the extensions. So I have made a change to the install.ps1 script file. I have added the install offline command line switch. Now let's go ahead and run the task. So you can see the offline database is getting installed. The installation is now complete. Let's now run the extension installers. Now let's verify if the installation has completed successfully in the app settings. So you can see the base store commerce and as well as the 2 extensions installed correctly. To make sure that the extensions in the store commerce app load correctly, we have to add the following code to the define post extension trigger.cs file as part of the commerce runtime. This code is applied to the commerce scale unit. I have gone ahead and activated the store commerce app. Let's go to the settings and see if the extensions have loaded correctly. Yeah, so we can see the under extension packages, the store commerce packaging sample as well as the gas station sample have loaded correctly. So we can click on view details to see the status for each extension. Now let's also look at some of the functionality. Let's first go and see the gas station sample. So we have the gas pumps showing up. We can click on the station information. So this is all working. Now other extension. So I am going to make a search and you should be able to see the version column here populated within NA. So this is, yeah, this other extension is also working. Let's now take a look at the debug experience with the Store Commerce app. To debug the Store Commerce app, I have added a launch configuration with the name attach debugger to Store Commerce, where I am going to attach to the Store Commerce process to debug the Store Commerce app application. So now I am going to place the breakpoints. So I'm going to enable the two breakpoints, one in the gas pump status view, the gas pump solution, as well as on the other extension packaging sample. So there are the two breakpoints on each solution are now set. Now I am going to the debug, run and debug section of Visual Studio Code, and I am going to click on the attach debugger to Store Commerce. Okay, so the debugger is now attached. So I am going to the Store Commerce app. I am going to click on the gas pump and click on show information. So the debugger has been hit. So let me continue. Let's go back to the Store Commerce app. Now let me add a product to the sale. So this should trigger the breakpoint on the next extension solution. Yeah, so the pre-product sale trigger has been hit. And let's continue. Now to debug the Store Commerce app in offline mode, to debug the commerce runtime in offline mode, we need Visual Studio 2019 or later. So first we will take the Store Commerce app into offline mode. The Store Commerce app is now offline. Now let's go to Visual Studio. I have already placed the breakpoint. Let me attach to the Store Commerce process. So this is the Store Commerce process. You can see the Store Commerce process by the title. Now I have attached the debugger to the Store Commerce process. To trigger the breakpoint, I am going to make another search in the Store Commerce app. So the device basically is in offline mode, and we are able to hit the debugger in the Visual Studio for debugging the commerce runtime components. So in the next demo, we are going to take you through the setting up the CI/CD integration. Also, we will demonstrate code signing of the installers using self-signed certificates and Azure Sign tool. In this demo, we will set up CI/CD for the Store Commerce app using the Azure DevOps pipelines. All the code is in the Azure DevOps with the folder structure shown in the previous demo. Let's go to the pipelines and create a new pipeline. I will use the classic editor to create the pipeline without YAML. So here we select the repository. We will select the Azure Repos Git as the repository. I will select the team project is already selected as commerce project. The repository is also selected. Let's press continue. And start with an empty job. So here I am going to name this pipeline as Commerce Project CI demo. I am going to select Windows 2019 as the agent specification. Under sources, all the source control repository has already been mapped. Let's add the first task in the pipeline. The first task is the PowerShell pre-build script. Let's add this task. And in the task, I am going to select the script path. The script is the pre-built script in the repository. The next task to add is the NuGet installer. So let's go to the pipeline and add another task. And in this, now we will search for NuGet. And let's select NuGet tool installer and add. After going to the NuGet tool installer, in the advanced option, you can give the version of the NuGet you want to install, say like 5.4.0. The next task to add is the NuGet restore. Make sure the command is restore. Let's select feeds in my NuGet config and select the path to the NuGet config file in the repository. Now let's add the ms build task. In the ms build task, we are going to take the latest ms build version. So after the build is completed, we need to copy the installers into the artifact staging directory. So for that, let me add another PowerShell task. So let's name this copy artifacts to staging directory. So let me select the path for the script. And I am going to pass some command line arguments. So as part of the command line arguments, we are just copying the installer.exe file from the sources directory to the artifact staging directory. Finally, we'll add the task to publish the artifacts in the staging directory. For that, we will add the publish artifacts task. And in this, we are going to select the file or directory path as the build.artifact staging directory. Now the pipeline is ready. Let's save and queue this pipeline. So I am going to enter the command and save and run. So the pipeline has started executing. So it has acquired an agent from the cloud and it is initializing the jobs. Let's wait for the job to complete. So the job has finished. Let's go to the job details and you will see there is an artifact which is published and this is the exe installer for the packaging sample. So now we have seen how to create a build pipeline for the store commerce installer. Let's now look at how we can sign the extension installers. To prevent the unknown publisher pop-up, we should sign the exe files. Signing your software helps you prove to users, browsers, and operating systems that your software comes from a trusted source. We will be using a self-signed certificate for the demo. It is recommended to use self-signed certificates for testing purposes only. So I have uploaded the self-signed certificate to Azure Key Vault. I have also created a client tab to access the Key Vault. So once that is done, I have added a few pipeline variables and passed the values like tenant ID, client ID, cert name, etc. So here is the pipeline I am using for signing. I am passing values for application ID, Azure Key Vault URL, certificate name, the secret value, and also the tenant ID and the team project name. So once this is done, we'll go to the tasks. So there are some changes we need to do in the task to support the signing the exe file. So first task that we will need to add here is the .NET Core task, which is to install the Azure Sign tool. And we have to pass the arguments like install global Azure Sign tool and make sure that you set the command as custom and the custom command as tool. After that is done, we will have to add another PowerShell script task. In the PowerShell script task, you have to give the path of the code signed PowerShell script. So that can be found in your repository. The file name should be code sign.ps1. And after that, we can pass some arguments to the PowerShell script. We need to pass the tenant ID values, application ID, and all the variable values we have set. Once that is done, we can queue a new build. And we will wait for this job to finish. So the job has now finished, and we are able to see that we are able to sign the files now. So we have looked at how to create a build pipeline and how to sign the executables in the build pipeline. So it is very important to set up a build system in your store commerce migration project. So let's look at this next scenario. So extension packages that ISVs, partners and customers generate for CSU must still be merged into a single package before it's deployed to LCS. So currently in LCS, we don't support the deployment of multiple extension packages. So there are multiple options of merging CSU extension packages. In the next demo, we will guide you through the process of like merging them by generating a NuGet package for the ISV CSU extensions. Extension packages that independent software vendors, partners, and customers generate for the CSU must be merged into a single package before they are deployed to Dynamics lifecycle services. Currently, LCS does not support the deployment of multiple extension packages for the scale unit deployed in the cloud. So let's take the scenario where there are multiple ISVs who have CSU extension packages and want to deploy all the packages because LCS does not support the deployment of multiple packages. You must merge all the packages into one package. In this demo, we will look at how you can merge the commerce scale unit extension packages. So first, let's go and create the feed. I'm going to name it ISV NuGet, and I'm going to connect to feed NuGet.exe, and this is the feed URL. I'm going to go to my scale unit repository, and in the scale unit repository, there is a file called nuget.config. I am going to subscribe or add this feed as a package source. After that, let's go into the solution, extension solution. The extension solution that we want to merge with the scale unit is the packaging samples. The way how we are going to merge is we are going to generate a NuGet package from this extension solution, and we'll add that extension NuGet package to the commerce scale unit. So here, first what we need to do is go here to the scale unit project. We need to add the generate package on build tag, and then we are going to build the extension. So this will drop the NuGet packages after the build is done. So the build is complete. Let's see whether the NuGet package has been dropped. So yeah, so we can see that the NuGet package has been generated for the commerce packaging sample. Now we need to add the NuGet package into the scale unit. Now I will check in this change I have made in the scale unit .cs proj file into the source control. So I have checked in the changes and it can be seen in the source control. Now let's go to the Azure pipeline, this commerce project CI demo, the pipeline that we used earlier. So in the pipeline, I have added some more tasks and I have modified the pipeline. The first modification or the task that I added is I added another PowerShell script task where I am copying the scale unit NuGet package to the artifact staging directory. So I am passing the copy file to destination script to be executed. And then I am going to pass some arguments. I'm going to pass arguments like what package needs to move from the build sources directory to the artifact staging directory. So I'm just moving the commerce packaging samples.scale unit package from the build sources directory to the artifact staging directory. The next modification I have made is I have added a NuGet push. So the command should be push and the path that needs to be published is the NuGet package that gets generated. So and then I have also put the target feed location. The target feed location is the target feed, the Azure artifact feed that we created earlier. So all the changes are done. So let me queue a new build. So we will wait for the build to finish. Build is now complete. Also verify before you push the changes to the Azure, to the Azure Artifacts feed. You give the permissions to the build service as a contributor. So once that is done, let's go to the Azure Artifacts and see if the package has been published. Yes, we can see that the package has been published successfully. Let's now see how we can consume this store commerce packaging sample scale unit package. So before we make any changes in the code, we will first go into the scale unit repository and look at the current package and see if there are any ISVs in that ISV code in that package. So let's go to the cloud scale unit extension packages. So in that we can see there is no commerce, the packaging sample is not there. And let's go to the retail server. Also, the packaging sample is missing here as well. Now we are going to refer to that package. So we'll add a package reference. And let's now do a build extension. Now let's go back and see the folder and see if, okay, so in the folder you can see now that the stock commerce packaging sample is now available in the cloud scale unit extension package. So let's go back and see the retail server side of things as well. So in the code extension, we can see the commerce runtime DLL for the store commerce packaging sample. So so we have seen how to consume ISV code through NuGet feeds and merge them into the commerce scale unit package. Now I will hand it over to Rob to take you through the remaining part of the slides.
All right, thank you, Srinath. Switching to code analysis, let's take a look at refactoring your legacy retail SDK code so that it fits within the newer Commerce SDK framework. We have very detailed documentation on the newer coding patterns and what has changed. If you have been following our best practice and deprecation announcements, most of your code is ready for Commerce SDK. However, 3 point of sale patterns have changed and will need to be refactored. I'm going to show you a tool that we are developing that will help you identify which extensions need to be updated. Let's talk for a moment about migrating your legacy retail SDK extensions to the Commerce SDK patterns. We have a very detailed article describing the process for migration. Note that there are 3 major changes that require some code refactoring. First, it's the removal of the POS UI.SDK library and knockout.js, as well as there are differences in creating custom views. If you are like me, you might feel overwhelmed and not know where to start. Here are 2 quick activities that you can do to identify which extensions, if any, need to be refactored and which are good to move. First, we can look at the CSU and take a health check on the extensions. If you watch the first Tech Talk in this series, you will remember that the health check is whack health check * test name equals extensions. And if you open up the URL to your scale unit, whether it's a proper scale unit or just the one that included in your dev box, the behavior is exactly the same. And all you need to do is append that health check as I described, and you will get a list of all of the extensions on the CSU that follow the Commerce SDK pattern or not. They'll be green if they're good, and they'll be red if they need to be refactored. This is a great way to quickly identify how many classes and how many controllers need to be refactored. In this case, because I do not have any CRT extensions, my count is 0, and these are green by default. If you have extensions, your counts will be different, and you will either get green or red results on your CSU. The second pattern that I want to show you is a code analysis script that we have been developing. This is still in its early stages. However, I'm very excited to share this with you. One question that you've asked is, will Microsoft have a tool that will do this conversion for you? The answer, unfortunately, is no, we will not have a tool. However, this will scan your code and the files in your extensions, and it will look for the patterns that need to be replaced. So while this will not do the replacement for you, it will identify those files and let you know which ones need to be changed. This is a script that we will need to drop into our references folder. And for my example, I want to show you that I have 3 sample extensions that I have enabled. So in the extensions.json file, if I open that up, you will see that I have warranty and return sample, promotion sample, and fiscal register sample. So I'm going to now run that test, the analysis on my extensions, and it's going to give me 2 files. The first file it's going to give me is going to look at my POS UI.SDK and tell me which files need to be addressed there. The second file is going to tell me about my knockout.js and my controllers. So if I go back to my root folder, my retail SDK folder, you will see that it created these 2 CSV files. I'm going to open the POS UI SDK usage details, and this one will give me a very good description of which projects it is looking at. So for this example, warranty and returns, it will look at the promotion sample as well as the fiscal register sample. And in this case, we see that the first 2 have the POS UI SDK changes that need to be done, but the third one does not. Secondly, I'm going to open up the Commerce SDK example, and we will see similarly that of the 3 extensions, the first 2 have some migration required. They have some refactoring that needs to happen before they can be properly migrated. And the fiscal register sample in this case has no identified changes that need to be done. This will tell us how many files we've looked through, and it will also tell us which legacy items need to be refactored. In this case, it identified 2 legacy controls that need to be done, as well as 4 knockout.js references that need to be refactored. And additionally, each one of these, it will give us a list of which files actually have the issues that you can quickly go in there and change. So what originally might have felt like a very overwhelming process now gives you very good visibility into which files need to be analyzed and which ones need to be fixed. All right, in summary, I want to go over some of the tools that you've seen. And just as a reminder, if you've done this, if you've been developing under the Retail SDK, a lot of this is probably already in place for you. If you are new to Store Commerce or the Commerce SDK, I just want to recap everything that Srinath has shown you. From a development side, you're going to need Visual Studio 2019 and Visual Studio Code, or you will need some form of ALM tool. We showed you Azure DevOps, but any other DevOps tool is perfectly acceptable. For Store Commerce deployment, you're going to need to have some type of mass deployment tool, whether it's SCCM or Endpoint Manager, that really does help out with your deployments. When you do development, you absolutely need a development machine. That does not necessarily need to be a tier 1 anymore. You can do it with a local laptop or an on-prem development VM. And you probably still need a sandbox for component testing. Last but not least, if you want to test offline, you will still need SQL Server Express. Some commonly asked questions that we've had in the past that I want to just bring up to the forefront is around Visual Studio. And can you get away with using Visual Studio Code? The answer is most of the time, yes. Visual Studio Code can be used to build all of the extensions for the Commerce SDK. However, if you need to debug the Commerce runtime for offline mode or the hardware station, you will need Visual Studio 2019. And Srinath, as he was showing you when he was doing the solution, I believe was using the Community Edition, so you don't necessarily need the professional version. If you're still doing development on the Retail SDK, that is still built on top of .NET 4.6, and because of that, only Visual Studio 2017 will support that. Another question is an LCS virtual machine required or a cloud-hosted virtual machine required? That was for Retail SDK a primary requirement. With the Store Commerce app and the Commerce SDK, that is no longer a true requirement. A lot of this can be done from your laptop. If you want to do it from your laptop and you want to debug against a local retail server, you will have to deploy the in-store scale unit on your laptop. That's not a terribly difficult activity, but definitely if you want to have a beefy laptop for development and you want to do all of your work there, that is entirely possible and at your discretion. I will note that you will need to include, of course, all of the .NET requirements and prerequisites. Like I said, if you want to do offline, you're going to need to install SQL Server. So definitely go through our requirements and install all of the prerequisites. With that, we're at the end of the Tech Talk. I wanted to open the floor to Q&A. Srinath, if you want to come back on view, do we have any questions you want to raise to the discussion?
Yeah, there were a few questions. So I think one I will just tell for the live audience. So can Store Commerce app work with Retail SDK? That was, I think, one question. Yeah, so for a Store Commerce app, you will need the Commerce SDK because it follows the sealed installer and packaging framework. So you'll need to go with the Commerce SDK. And there was one more question on, I think that is also answered. Is it required to merge POS extensions? For a CSU, yeah, we showed you the demo. If you are just CSU, you need to merge the code. And if it is just like a in-store installation. So you can just do with multiple installers, multiple exe files getting installed. So you don't need to merge those. So those can be independently developed by maybe a partner or an ISV. I think that's been the questions. I think that was the only two questions that were, I think, left unanswered. So
I do want to go back a little bit to the question about merging POS extensions. One thing to keep in mind is that the Store Commerce app can run on Windows, it can run on Android, iOS, and it can also run in the web. We used to call that Cloud Point of Sale, but now we just call it Store Commerce for the web. For basically what used to be called the Cloud Point of Sale, as well as Android and iOS, a lot of the UI elements are still getting rendered on the CSU. And with that hybrid mode, you still need to deploy POS extensions to the CSU. So if you think about needing to merge your POS extensions, it still needs to happen if you're using any of those three POS configurations. So as Srinath said, it really only if you have the Windows version of Store Commerce can you deploy multiple extensions. All right, with that, I'm going to hand it over to Cora to wrap us up. Thank you very much, everyone.
All right, thank you so much. As a reminder, I've posted a short survey in the Q&A panel. We'd like your feedback on today's session and to hear what you'd like to see in future events. Thank you for your participation. As a reminder, the recording for today's session will be available on the TechTalks Community Dynamics page within the coming weeks. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenters and audience for joining us today. Goodbye.